My mother and sister ordered me to not bring my autistic kid in my sister's wedding. Now they are calling relentlessly to save their face. I stared at my phone screen, my fingers trembling slightly as I reread the message for the third time. My vision blurred slightly with the heat of unshed tears, but the words remained cruelly clear. Amelia, I think it's best if you leave Noah at home for the wedding. You know how he gets. It was from my mother. The woman who had once cradled me in her arms when I fell off my bike, the same woman who had wiped my tears when I scraped my knee. The same mother who had watched with pride as I became a mother myself. But now? She was telling me to leave my son behind, as though he were some inconvenient package. Easily stowed away and forgotten. My fingers tightened around the phone as I scrolled further. There was a second message from my sister, Valerie. Mia, Mom's right. You know Noah can get fussy, and we just want the day to be perfect. It's my wedding, and I need everything to go smoothly. Please don't make this about you. I felt the sharp sting of betrayal burn through me like acid. Make this about me? Was that really what she thought? That protecting my son's dignity, my beautiful, gentle Noah, was somehow me being selfish? I sank onto the edge of my bed, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Noah was only 7 years old. He was on the autism spectrum. And yes, sometimes he became overwhelmed in large crowds. Loud noises and bright flashing lights could trigger his anxiety. But he was still a child. My child. How could they ask me to hide him away like he was some sort of embarrassment? The next morning, my phone rang. It was my mother. I didn't want to answer, I was still too raw, but I did. Maybe some foolish, naive part of me hoped she would call to apologize, to take it all back. But she didn't. Amelia, I need you to listen to me, she began, her tone brisk and condescending, like she was scolding a child. Valerie is already stressed enough about the wedding. She doesn't need you adding to it. I clenched my jaw, struggling to keep my voice steady. By adding to it, you mean bringing my son? There was a pause. A heavy silence that spoke louder than words. You know how he gets, honey, she finally said, her voice softer now, like she was trying to sound reasonable. He won't be comfortable. And you'll spend the whole night tending to him instead of enjoying yourself. It's better this way, for everyone. For everyone. I felt my stomach twist. My mother had never been overtly cruel. But this casual, callous dismissal of her own grandson was far worse. It was indifference. I could feel my voice shaking with restrained fury. You want me to pretend he doesn't exist for one night? To make your lives more convenient? Don't be dramatic, she snapped. We're not asking you to abandon him. Just leave him at home. It's one night, Amelia. Valerie deserves this day to be about her. And just like that, she made it perfectly clear. My son, my baby boy, was an inconvenience. A flaw in their perfect, polished image. I took a shaky breath. My voice was flat when I spoke again. If Noah isn't welcome, then neither am I. My mother's voice hardened instantly. Amelia, don't be ridiculous. This is your sister's wedding. You'll regret it if you don't come. I was shaking now. Rage and heartbreak surged through me in equal measure. No, I hissed through clenched teeth. The only thing I'll regret is teaching my son that he needs to disappear to make other people comfortable. And then I hung up. After the call, I sat in Noah's room, watching him play with his building blocks. His little face was scrunched up in concentration, his tongue slightly sticking out, a habit he had whenever he was deep in thought. He didn't know. He didn't know that his grandmother and aunt, the very people who were supposed to love him unconditionally, had decided he wasn't good enough to be part of their celebration. Mama, look. Noah's voice was bright with excitement. He turned toward me, holding up the lopsided tower he had built, his eyes wide with pride. I smiled, blinking away the tears stinging the corners of my eyes. "Wow, buddy. That's amazing," I said, forcing my voice to be light. Noah giggled, clapping his hands with pure joy. He didn't care that his tower wasn't perfect. He was just happy. Blissfully unaware of the cruelty in the world. I knelt beside him and wrapped my arms around him. He stilled for a moment, sensing the shift in my emotions. "Mama?" he whispered softly, pulling back slightly to look at me. "You're sad?" I smiled through my tears and shook my head. "No, baby. I'm just so proud of you." I kissed his forehead, holding him tightly. I didn't care if they wanted me to leave him behind. I would never let him feel unwanted. Chapter 4. The wedding day expanded. The morning of the wedding arrived, and unlike what my mother and sister had expected, Noah and I were nowhere near the venue. While they were likely fussing over floral arrangements and touching up their flawless makeup, I was sitting cross-legged on the living room floor with Noah, helping him assemble a colorful puzzle. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating his soft brown curls as he hummed quietly to himself. His eyes were focused, and his tiny hands moved with determined precision. Every time he connected a piece, his face lit up with uncontainable joy. "Mama, look. I did it!" he exclaimed, his voice high with excitement as he clapped his hands. I smiled and scooped him into my arms, pressing my lips against his warm, chubby cheek. "You're amazing, baby," I whispered, feeling the tears sting the corners of my eyes. Noah squirmed happily and wiggled out of my embrace, eager to return to his puzzle. I sat back and simply watched him, my heart swelling with both pride and sadness. Because he didn't know. He didn't know that today was supposed to be a family celebration, a day where he should have been surrounded by love, included and embraced. He didn't know that his grandmother and aunt, two people he adored, had cruelly deemed him unworthy of being there. Instead, he sat on the floor, building his puzzle in blissful ignorance, with no idea that the people who were supposed to love him unconditionally had written him off. While the wedding guests were likely raising glasses in celebration, Noah and I took a different path. I drove us to his favorite park, the one with the colorful jungle gym and the carousel that made him giggle every time he rode it. The sun was warm on our faces as we walked hand in hand across the soft grass. Noah's tiny fingers were curled tightly around mine, his little legs swinging with childlike enthusiasm. The moment he spotted the carousel, he let out an excited squeal and tugged at my hand. "Mama! Horses! Ride the horses!" I laughed and ran alongside him, our feet pounding the soft grass as we hurried toward the ride. The park was nearly empty, giving us free rein of the carousel. Noah immediately climbed onto a large white horse with golden painted trim. He patted its mane enthusiastically, his face glowing with pure, unfiltered joy. When the ride began, he threw his arms into the air, giggling uncontrollably as the horse bobbed up and down. I stood beside him, watching him with pride and heartbreak. Because while he laughed and squealed with innocent glee, my family was erasing him from their perfect celebration, and despite the ache in my chest, I didn't regret my choice, not for a second. That evening, while my mother and sister clinked champagne glasses and posed for flawless wedding photos, Noah and I built our own memories. We returned home, changed into our coziest pajamas, and built a giant blanket fort in the middle of the living room. We piled in every pillow and cushion we could find, creating a soft, magical den just for us. I strung fairy lights along the top, making the entire fort glow softly. Noah's eyes widened in awe, and he let out a delighted gasp. "Stars, Mama!" he whispered reverently, pointing at the twinkling lights. "Just for you, baby," I murmured, pulling him into my arms. We lay under the glowing canopy, wrapped in blankets, eating popcorn and watching his favorite animated movie. The entire evening was filled with his giggles, his hugs, and his boundless joy. And when he fell asleep, his small body curled against mine, I knew in my heart that I had made the right choice. They may have chosen to erase him from their picture-perfect day, but I chose to celebrate him. And that was a memory neither of us would ever forget. The morning after the wedding, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and messages clogging my phone. I rubbed my eyes, groaning softly at the persistent buzzing of my phone vibrating against the nightstand. I grabbed it, blinking at the notification screen. 27 missed calls, 14 voicemails, countless texts. I let out a long, tired sigh. I had been expecting this. The first message was from my mother, her voice sharp and laced with manufactured concern. "Amelia, I've been calling you all night. Why didn't you come? You're being childish and cruel. Your absence caused such an embarrassing scene." I rolled my eyes and deleted the message. The second voicemail was from my sister, Valerie. Her voice was high-pitched and indignant. "Mia, I'm so disappointed in you. You couldn't even put aside your drama for one day? Everyone was asking where you were. You made me look bad." I clenched my jaw as her words hit me like a slap. She hadn't asked about Noah. She hadn't asked why I made the choice I did. She only cared about herself. There were more messages, some from aunts and cousins, asking why I wasn't at the wedding. Others were from mutual friends, awkwardly checking in after hearing about the family drama. But not a single message acknowledged my son. Not one. They didn't ask how he was doing. They didn't ask if he was okay. Because to them, he didn't matter. By noon, the calls were relentless. My phone buzzed on the counter again, and I finally picked up. "Amelia." My mother's voice was sharp with exasperation. "Why have you been ignoring me?" I inhaled slowly, keeping my voice calm. "Because I have nothing to say to you." Her voice hardened instantly. "You humiliated your sister." She snapped. "People noticed you were missing. It was incredibly rude." I felt a bitter laugh bubble up in my throat. "You're upset because I embarrassed Valerie?" I asked incredulously. "That's your concern? Not the fact that you told me my son wasn't good enough to be there?" There was a beat of silence. For once, my mother was at a loss for words. I didn't let her recover. "You made your choice, Mom. You made it perfectly clear that Noah was an inconvenience you didn't want ruining your perfect day. And now you want to act like the victim?" Her voice wavered slightly. "Mia, it wasn't like that." But I cut her off coldly. "Yes, it was. And now you're panicking because people are asking why your own daughter wasn't there. You want me to cover for you, to help you save face." I took a steadying breath and delivered the final blow. "But I won't. Because you don't get to humiliate my son in private and still play the doting grandmother in public." Her breath hitched sharply, but I didn't care. I hung up. Later that evening, Valerie texted me. At first, I thought it might be a genuine attempt to reconcile. But I should have known better. "Valerie, hey. Can we talk? I feel like we need to clear the air." I stared at the message for a long moment before responding. "What do you want, Valerie?" Her reply was swift. "I just think we shouldn't let this stupid fight ruin our relationship. I miss you." I clenched my teeth, seething at her audacity. "You miss me? You erased my son from your wedding, Val. You made it clear that he was an inconvenience. You humiliated him. And now you want to act like it was a stupid fight?" Her next message made my stomach turn. "Mia, you're overreacting. I didn't erase him. I just wanted things to be smooth. It wasn't personal." I stared at her words, disgusted by her casual cruelty. I replied once more, my fingers trembling slightly as I typed. "It was personal. It was my son. And you can consider us done." And then I blocked her number. In the weeks that followed, the calls and texts gradually faded. My mother left increasingly desperate voicemails. Valerie sent apologetic emails. But I didn't respond. I wasn't interested in saving their reputation. I was only interested in protecting my son. And from that day on, Noah and I built our own family, one where he was never made to feel unwanted. Because I had made my choice. And I would choose him every single time.